Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping into a story out of Malaysia that is a masterclass in how fast things can just explode online. We're talking about one single court ruling that in just a few hours unleashed this massive digital firestorm of debate, outrage, and, you won't believe it, memes. So, let's break it down.
So how does that even happen? Right? How does one quiet court ruling about one person kick off a full-blown digital tsunami? Well, this whole event is basically the perfect look at how a modern, super digitally savvy country processes huge, controversial news as it's breaking minute by minute. It all started on the morning of August 13th. The news drops. Former Prime Minister Najib might get moved to house arrest. And the reaction? It wasn't just fast, it was like instantaneous. Before people were even done with their workday, social media was on fire. By the evening, his name was the #1 trend in the entire country. A single spark that lit a nationwide blaze.
And just to give you a sense of the scale here, just look at the search traffic. On that day, August 13th, Google searches for Najib Razak just shot through the roof, hitting a perfect 100 on their interest scale. And this wasn't just people, passively scrolling. This was an entire nation actively logging on and digging for answers.
Okay, so we know what happened and we know when it happened. But who exactly was behind this digital tsunami? This online reaction was really made up of a few different waves, and honestly, each one tells us something really different about the national mood.
But here's the thing. While the reaction was absolutely massive, it wasn't monolithic at all. Social media analysis shows a pretty clear majority, we're talking about 60%, were deeply critical or just plain outraged. But at the same time, you had this very vocal minority of supporters pushing back hard, while another group was just trying to figure out what was actually going on.
And the divide between these groups was just incredibly stark. On one side, you've got critics calling it the scam of the year, just pure frustration. And on the other, you've got supporters who are just as passionate, promising to continue your fight. This wasn't just another news story. This was a deep political fault line cracking wide open for everyone to see.
This one viral comment really gets to the heart of the outrage. With so much about the proceedings kept secret, one person asked this really powerful question online. And that's the thing, right? It showed this was never just about one person. It was about this fundamental demand for fairness and for justice to be the same for everyone.
But then you have the complete counter-narrative. Supporters, especially on platforms like Facebook, saw things from a totally different angle. Comments like this one, calling Najib a victim of slander, they show this unwavering belief that he's innocent. For them, the court's decision was a kind of vindication. It's like two completely different realities playing out in the very same digital space.
But the story doesn't end with just anger and arguments. What happened next is where it gets, uniquely Malaysian. All of that frustration and that white-hot anger, it didn't just stay as anger. It morphed into this incredible, massive wave of national satire.
Okay, so the biggest trend to emerge was this thing called the luxury prison meme. People started sarcastically volunteering for life imprisonment, but only if it was at like a 5-star resort. This tweet is a perfect example, somebody begging for a sentence at the Tatai in Langkawi. It's hilarious, yes, but it's also just this incredibly sharp, biting commentary on the perception of VIP justice.
And this is a fantastic example of that really specific, kind of dark, inside humor. This popular joke suggests that, hey, maybe Najib would actually be safer in prison than at home with his notoriously stern wife, Razma. It's this coded, super witty way to comment on the whole situation that pretty much every Malaysian would get instantly. It's brilliant.
You can actually trace the life cycle of how this all evolved. First, it starts in the real world, with supporters on the street chanting "Free Basku." Then, almost immediately, the internet claps back with "Basku stays inside" counter memes. After that, the artists get involved, drawing cartoons of prison palaces. And before you know it, the whole thing jumps over to TikTok with people making parody skits about what house arrest would look like. Every layer just built on the last one.
So, what does all this mean? The anger, the loyalty, the jokes. What does this whole digital storm actually reveal? Well, it tells us something absolutely crucial about modern Malaysia and the incredible power of a public that's connected.
To really get what's happening here, you need to understand this term, digital rakyat. It literally means the digital citizens of Malaysia. And this event? This was the digital rakyat in full force, using social media, not just to make noise, but as a genuine public square to debate, to dissent, and to hold power accountable, all in real time.
And look, these digital citizens weren't just acting in a vacuum. You had all these influential voices from every side fanning the flames. Opposition politicians immediately framed it as an issue of elite impunity. At the same time, pro-government figures were urging respect for a royal decree. All the while, the media was amplifying the public's voice, and artists were adding their own sharp critical commentary. Everyone had a hand in shaping the narrative.
So why this? Why did this story, out of everything, go so massively viral? Honestly, it was a perfect storm. You had a hugely famous and controversial figure. You had this narrative of special treatment that tapped right into the raw public anger over the massive 1MDB corruption scandal. Then, you had all that anger get channeled into uniquely shareable, witty humor, and in that moment, social media became the nation's public watchdog. And get this. Behind all the fury and the memes was a very real search for the facts. This number is just incredible. Google searches for Tahanan Rumah Najib, which is Malay for Najib house arrest, shot up by over 500%. This shows people weren't just reacting blindly, they were actively trying to understand the details for themselves.
So ultimately, this is the main takeaway. All of it. The memes, the hashtags, the arguments. It was so much more than just fleeting digital noise. What we saw was a genuine national conversation about fundamental issues of justice, of privilege, and of power, all happening live, right out in the open for everyone to see.
Which, of course, leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to think about. We've seen how the collective voice of these digital citizens can shape an entire national narrative and apply immense pressure. So it really makes you wonder, in today's world, is the court of public opinion becoming just as powerful as the court of law?